All right, buckle up, because today we're taking a deep dive into the mind of, well, Virginia Woolf.
Oh, wow. This is going to be good.
It is. We got this YouTube video analyzing her through, get this, the Enneagram. A type 4 social, they're saying. And honestly, I am so here for this.
I mean, trying to understand someone we can't exactly interview anymore, that's next level analysis right there.
Right. Like, usually we have some direct words, but with Woolf, it's all about piecing together the clues. And for anyone new to this whole Enneagram thing, just picture like 9 different personality types, each with their own quirks and fears and all that.
Yeah.
Today, we're all about type 4, the individualists, but more specifically, the social 4, which, oh boy, that adds a whole other layer.
It does.
So what is it about a type 4 social that's so different, and how does Virginia Woolf actually fit into this?
So type 4s, they're all about feeling things deeply, like really deeply. They're introspective, they want what's real, authentic, and the world kind of hits them harder than most.
Yeah, I can see that.
But now, add in the social 4, they crave connection, belonging, but they often feel different, like they're on the outside looking in, even when they're surrounded by people.
Oh, that push and pull, wanting to belong, but feeling like an outsider. Gosh, I can already see how that might connect to Woolf's life, her writing especially.
Totally. Think about her novels, Mrs. Dalloway, To the Lighthouse. Those aren't just stories. They're like deep dives into what it means to be human, you know?
Yeah.
All those complex emotions, Woolf doesn't shy away from them. She explores them, puts them right there on the page for the reader to feel too. Classic type 4.
It's like she's saying, hey, these are my emotions, but bet you felt some of this stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of getting up close and personal, this video doesn't just stop at Woolf's books, right? It digs into her personal life too.
It does. Woolf kept diaries, like her whole life. And they're raw, unfiltered. The video talks about how she constantly felt misunderstood, even by people close to her.
Which, again, that feeling of being an outsider, even when surrounded by friends, totally tracks with the type 4 social.
Exactly. And this is where the video's analysis of Woolf and the Bloomsbury Group gets really interesting.
The Bloomsbury Group, okay, for anyone just tuning in, picture this. A bunch of writers, artists, thinkers, all hanging out in England in the early 1900s, like the coolest kids on the intellectual block.
Right. And Woolf was right there in the thick of it.
Exactly. But here's the thing. The video suggests that even surrounded by all these free spirits, Woolf's type 4 social tendencies, well, they might have caused some inner turmoil.
Yeah, the video really digs into this idea of envy as like a core struggle for type 4s, especially social 4s. And we're not talking about like wanting someone's fancy car. It's deeper. It's about that longing for belonging, for feeling seen and validated, but it always feels just out of reach.
So how does that envy thing play out within the Bloomsbury Group?
So the video talks about Marcel Proust, another famous type 4.
Oh, I love Proust.
Right. And there's this quote where he describes envy as like always wanting to be someone else or to be in their place, this insatiable hunger. And the video suggests that even Woolf, successful as she was, accepted by the group, she might have still felt that pang of envy. I mean, imagine it. Constantly surrounded by these brilliant minds, everyone's debating, creating, shining. It's easy to see how those feelings of comparison, of not quite measuring up, could creep in, especially for a type 4.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly. And for someone like Woolf, so sensitive, so introspective, that constant comparison could be brutal.
Absolutely. But the video doesn't stop there, does it? It links this envy thing to another, well, often misunderstood part of being a type 4, right. Self-despise.
Yeah, it's not just comparing yourself to others, it's turning that criticism inward. Oof.
Yeah, ouch is right. So how does this self-despise actually show up in Woolf's life? This video gets real, doesn't it?
It does. Woolf was so open about her mental health in her diaries, struggling with depression, and what we now understand is bipolar disorder. And look, we can't diagnose someone from the past, but the video makes this interesting point. These conditions, seen through the lens of the Enneagram, could have intensified her type 4 tendencies, that self-despise especially.
So it's like her natural sensitivity, her tendency to overthink, combine that with these real mental health struggles, and it's almost like a perfect storm of inner turmoil.
Yeah, and the video points out this struggle wasn't just personal, it bled into her writing, too. Think about Septimus Smith from Mrs. Dalloway.
Oh, right, a World War I vet dealing with, like, severe PTSD.
And he ends up taking his own life, and as the video highlights, embodies a lot of the internal battles Woolf faced herself. It's like she used fiction as a way to process, to grapple with her own pain and the pain she saw around her. And that's where the Enneagram gives us this framework, you know? Those characters, as dark as they can be, they aren't just random. They're born from her lived experience, filtered through this lens of her Enneagram type.
It makes you wonder, like, if Wolf had known about the Enneagram back then, could it have helped her? Could she have seen those feelings of being different, of not belonging, as just part of her Type 4 nature, not flaws to be ashamed of?
That's a powerful question.
It really is.
But even without that language, Wolf, she found her outlet, her lifeline, her writing.
Absolutely. The video makes this strong connection between Type 4 and creativity. It's almost like all those intense emotions, all that introspection, it becomes fuel for their art.
Exactly. For Wolf, with her Enneagram type, her experiences, writing wasn't just a job. It was a way to understand herself, to connect with others on this deep emotional level. Instead of letting those Type 4 tendencies consume her, she channeled them into art.
Which is kind of amazing when you think about it.
It really is. And it speaks to the power of the Enneagram, right? It's not just about here are your weaknesses, but here are your strengths too. Recognizing these patterns in ourselves and figuring out healthy ways to express them.
Which brings us to the heart of it. What can we learn from this? How does understanding the Enneagram, even when talking about someone like Virginia Woolf, help us today? It's like we're holding up a mirror, not just to Virginia Woolf, but to ourselves too, you know?
Right.
Like if her struggles with self-doubt, her longing for connection, that creative fire in her, if it can be traced back to these patterns, these Enneagram things, well, what does that mean for us? You know?
Totally. And that's the thing. The video isn't saying, hey, if you connect with Wolf's story, bam, you're a Type 4. Not at all.
Right. Yeah.
It's more about recognizing these patterns, these core things that drive us as like universal human experiences, not tied to any label, really.
It's like you were saying earlier about the Enneagram being a tool for empathy. Because once you start to get why people, ourselves included, act the way they do, it's kind of hard to judge them so harshly, isn't it?
It really is. Wolf's story, looking at it through this Enneagram lens, it reminds us that even the people who seem like they have it all figured out, the famous authors, the brilliant minds, they still struggle. Insecurity, self-doubt, that need to connect for real. It's all part of the human experience.
And it's almost like those struggles, those things that might make us feel like we don't belong, those are the same things that can become our strengths.
Exactly.
Like her writing, it's so raw, so vulnerable, so deeply personal, that it still resonates with people today. It makes you wonder, what other hidden stuff, what amazing qualities do we have within us that we don't even realize? If we could just, face those parts of ourselves we usually hide, even from ourselves.
And honestly, that might be the most powerful message here. It's not about labeling ourselves, squeezing into some box labeled Type 1 or Type 4. It's about using these tools, these frameworks as a starting point, a way to figure out who we are, why we are the way we are.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Virginia Woolf, the Enneagram, everything, I'm kind of in awe of how much power there is in simply understanding ourselves.
Right.
Because maybe, just maybe, that self-awareness, that's the key to living more authentically, more creatively, more fully. And on that note, until next time, deep divers.